There's going to come a day when you're going to exit your business. In fact, they're either going to carry you out in a box, which is not really the exit you want, or better still, you're going to sell your business. Now, if that's years and years and years away, it's still something that you need to be aware of now. In fact, I believe it needs to be sat in the back of your mind all the time, almost asking yourself, the decisions I make today, how is that going to affect the exit that I might have in 5 or 10 years' time? My special guest today is a real expert at this. He's a business broker and sells an MSP on average every 3.5 weeks. The thing is, he sees patterns of things that MSPs do today that make it harder for them to sell their business in the future and also directly affect how much money they're going to get paid when they come to that exit. So you need this info right now and not when you're 6 months away from selling your business.
Hi, I'm Adam Borst. I'm the VP of Acquisitions with Vista Business Group.
And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, Adam, because we're going to talk about a massive subject. What is going to stop you from being able to sell your MSP for big bucks? And you're clearly someone who knows a lot about selling MSPs because you sell, you say it's every 4 or 5 weeks you sell an MSP on average?
Every 3.5 to 4 weeks.
Okay. So that's a pretty regular routine of selling MSPs. So we're going to explore today all the mistakes that will hold you back. So what you'll do that makes your MSP unsellable or very difficult to sell, what you'll do that will reduce the value, all the mistakes that you're likely to make. And I'm going to guess that a lot of those mistakes are made years before the sales process even happens. And we'll find out from you, Adam, as we go along. But let's first of all just explore you. So how have you got to this point now where you're selling an MSP every 3.5 weeks or so?
Yeah, great question. So I joined the firm right before COVID started. We were very diversified as far as our industry focus goes, but we had an MSP listed for sale. Everything took it on the chin except for the MSP. So I told the owner of the firm, like, this is, he and I, we looked at each other like, hey man, this is pretty obvious. So, and then of course, COVID shined a gigantic spotlight on the need for MSPs. So that's obviously good for the MSPs, but for private equity, they had these big diverse portfolios going into COVID. A lot of their portfolio companies, again, took it on the chin, except for their MSPs. So we made a hard pivot, and that's 99% of what we focus on these days. So that has been for the last 5+ years.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. That's a great. I love hearing positive stories of things that happened in COVID and how people discovered things that they didn't know were right there in front of them, which is really cool. So, you, in terms of, without giving away any kind of secret sauce or special techniques, because any business that's been doing something for years and years and years has methods and things that work and that give you a competitive advantage. But when you're selling an MSP, I assume you're not just listing, because we've all seen these websites listing businesses for sale. Most of us have sat and dreamed, haven't we? You've sat and looked at these and thought, what would it be like if I owned that kind of business? Or I might look at that. I assume you guys aren't just listing them on websites. Do you do strategic work identifying who would be the perfect acquirer for this, and how do we put that person and our seller together?
Yes, excellent question. So that's one of the areas where we shine very brightly, is our ability to bring a gazillion buyers to the table, for my very technical term. So to your point, you're exactly right. We don't just slap it up on a couple of websites and call it a day. We have folks on our team that's what they do full time, is proactively reach out to potential buyers. So all of our marketing is blind, meaning that there's no identifying information about the business, but we send out a one-page highlight sheet. We call it a teaser because, again, there's no way that a buyer would be able to figure out who they are, but it gives them enough sense of whether it maybe be a good fit for them. And anyway, when they express interest, we have them sign an NDA, and then at that point, then we provide them with the memorandum that we've put together, or the big thick offering book that has. Our goal with that offering book is to provide them with all the information that they would need to put together an initial offer. So, anyway, that's the first major step in the process.
Yeah, I have a small insight into that world because I sold my first business in 2016. So 10 years, how has that 10 years gone so quick? And the company I hired, they were so expensive, but they were worth every penny because they did their own version of exactly what you said. And we had, in the end, we had 3 offers to buy the business, which was crazy. And I successfully exited that business, and it was worth every penny for them to go through this process. And as you said, they were marketing. It was a marketing exercise, and that was what attracted me to them in the first place. As a marketing obsessive, it's like, hang on, here's a company that is expensive because they're going to invest all of that money into people and processes, and they were hitting the phones for 5 or 6 weeks, just literally drumming up demand, which was great. So that's turned into a bit of a free advert for you there. So let's get away from the free advert and turn into value. So you've obviously spent 5-6 years then looking at MSPs. I mean, if you're selling one every 3.5 weeks, you must be talking to hundreds of MSPs a year. And I'm going to guess that people are coming to you. They've either got a finished business, as in the business is runs without them. It's got a management team. It's got systems. It's got processes. The owner has perhaps collected the money for a number of years, and for whatever reason, they're just ready to go. So I'm guessing you'll get those kind of people that come in, and you love those. And then I'm guessing you get people who come in and the business has taken a big dip. Cash is starting to be an issue. They've lost a major client, or the owner's ill, or the owner's partner's ill, or someone's ill somewhere, or there's just it's generally a business that for whatever reason it's going down rather than going up. Would that be a fair thing to say? And we could all look at that, and let me make this a 2-part question. We could all look at that and say, well, obviously it's going to be harder to sell the let's call it distressed business, but actually is that the case, or is demand so high for MSPs right now that you can almost sell almost any business?
I'm a broken record. Again, you're asking good questions. So the answer is yes. Demand is absurdly high these days. So to give you some numbers to flesh that out, in years past, when we would bring an MSP to market, we would expect an average MSP to receive anywhere from 20 to 40 offers within a 30-day period. So not just people that are saying that they're interested in reviewing the offering book, but actually out of all of them, out of the hundreds that have reviewed it, there's in years past 20 to 40 that provide an initial indication of interest or an initial offer. The last, I'm looking here at my list, the last 10 to 12 MSPs that we've sold, we've been blowing those numbers out of the water. That the average number of offers is between 60 to 80 offers within that same 30-day period. Yeah.
Wow.
And buyers are coming out of the woodwork, for lack of a better phrase. To your point on the quality, for a distressed business, the beauty of bringing so many buyers to the table is that you're going to have all sorts of different buyers. So there's high demand for both is the short answer.
Yeah, I get that. So in that previous business that I sold, we worked with in the veterinarian sector. And back then, at that point, it was where MSPs are today, where suddenly, and it was all being driven by Mars, as in the candy people, the chocolate bar people, who now own more veterinary practices and clinics across the world than any other company. But because of that, there was this huge consolidation rush, and suddenly even badly run, poor, unprofitable veterinary practices were worth money because there was just such demand. So it's interesting. And that demand obviously has tailed off now because there's a finite amount of people. So it's really interesting to see that the MSP world is now at that stage. And I guess that will last for another 5 or 6 years, maybe longer, because of course MSPs being in technology, it's a completely different ballpark than clinics where veterinarians fix animals. Let's talk then about what MSPs get wrong. So I'm sure you don't have that many perfect, ready to sell businesses turn up. What are the most common things you see that MSPs do, which either make a sale harder or just more likely reduce the amount of money they're likely to be offered?
There's a lot of different directions we can go with this. So one thing that I tell everybody is some owners, they feel like that their employees are their family, and they feel like they have to tell every little thing that's going on, and we strongly encourage potential sellers to just keep it tightly under wraps. The time to tell your employees that you're even thinking about selling the business is when you're introducing them to the new owner. that is the time to tell them you've even thought about it. Because otherwise, I mean, put yourself in the shoes of the employee. It creates a lot of unnecessary angst, and so that makes it very difficult to sell. Is when the employees have been told, because they're, again, they don't know who their new boss is going to be in a couple months anyway. So it's from their perspective, it's like, well, why wouldn't I go out and look and see what else is out there? So,
Yeah.
so that's one. Another would be, sometimes when owners are nearing an exit, when there's light at the end of the tunnel for them, they back off the gas. They took their foot off the gas pedal, and that is the worst thing that an owner can do. The time to work the hardest is going into the exit. You will do yourself so many favors. First and foremost, just in terms of how much money you receive when you exit. Another would be, the best way I could say it is, the things that keep you up at night as an owner, those are the things that are going to decrease the value that you could otherwise extract from an exit. So buyers, they pay for predictability. That ultimately, the name of the game in M&A is predictability. That is how you command a premium. So the things that people get wrong are, I suppose there's really no right or wrong approach. But
well, if I can jump in, Adam,
yeah,
are you saying in different words, why would someone else want to buy your problems and the problems that you can't fix? Is that one way of looking at it?
Yeah. So if you were to step away from the business for 90 days, what's going to break? So those are the areas you need to shore up if you want to command a premium. So what I was starting to say is, that there's different schools of thought on this. A lot of folks still aren't completely sold on the idea that they need to have their clients on an annual contract. But in terms of commanding a premium when you go to sell, that is something that's going to move the needle. And then just the quality of the contracts as well. You don't have to go out and spend a crazy amount of money with an attorney, but just, when a buyer looks at an MSP that has annual contracts versus month to month, they're looking at a business that has a much higher, in their mind, there's a lot higher commitment level that the clients have with that MSP. Other issues that impact value would be, one of the big ones would be a client concentration. So then there's no magic line in the sand, but if there was, it would be right around 20% of revenue. So
you mean in terms of whale clients? So there's no one client that's more than 20% of your revenue?
Correct. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep. And obviously the way to fix that is just to dilute that concentration by getting more clients in the door. But anyway, those are some of the big factors.
Yeah, it's interesting as you're saying these are and this validates everything you've just said. This is exactly the advice I was given 10 years ago when I sold my business, which was do not stop working hard. In fact, you keep working hard until the day you give the keys to the new owner. Do not tell your staff. Do not have whale clients. And there are a whole bunch of other things around. Find your skeletons first before the buyer finds them during due diligence, which is that process of where you've accepted the offer and they get to see everything. And if you've buried some bodies in the yard, you dig those bodies up and you move them to someone else's yard before you sell the house. It's a slightly crude way of putting it, but that was how it was explained to me. Let's take a slightly, as a final question, Adam, a slightly longer term view. So for most MSPs listening to this or watching this on YouTube right now, the exit is in the future. It's not today. I'm sure you might know what percentage of people are ready to sell at any one time. And we all have days where we think, oh, I'm done, I want to get out of this. But then we wake up the next morning and we carry on. But I mean, everybody wants to sell their business at some point. So let's say there's an MSP owner listening to this right now, and they're 5 years away from when they think they're going to be ready to exit. What are some of the mistakes they're going to be making today that are going to be much harder to fix down the line, or things they could do today which is just going to make their life easier down the line?
the cleaner your books are, the easier life is going to be when the exit comes. So, and then to put a finer point on that, categorizing your revenue. So knowing how much of your revenue is coming from actual MSP contracts versus projects. So a lot of MSPs, it's all just service labor. Making it a distinction between the two in your accounting, that's going to help you a lot. Again, going back to the contracts, it doesn't have to be some crazy, overly complex contract that you have, but having a contract, that is very helpful. And again, the longer the period, the better. And then, as far as identifying, you brought up a really good point earlier. If there are skeletons in the closet, the very, very first step in our process is to put together evaluation. We don't charge people for that. There's no strings attached. And the reason that we do that is, in an ideal world, we like to do that at least 24 months prior to when they sell. And the reason being is so that way, if there are any issues that we identify, then it gives them 6 months or more to implement whatever changes, and then still yet another 12 months of those changes being on the books. So as far as things that an owner can do, that is an extremely healthy exercise. Strongly recommend that.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Adam, let's finish off. Just tell us a little bit more about what you do to help MSPs. So we know you sell lots of them, and we know this is a great time to be selling an MSP, but just tell us a little bit more about what you do and what's the best way to get in touch with you as well?
Email's best. It's my name. So Adam Borst, Borst at vistabusinessgroup.com. So that's the best way to get in touch with me. And then, as far as what we do, the process, again, step one is always evaluation. When somebody decides that they want to move forward, then we package the business up and then we actively market it, as I outlined earlier. 60 to 80 offers within a 30-day period. We don't expect the owner to interact with all of those. So we ask them to narrow it down. We have all the offers gathered up and put together in a spreadsheet. And then we ask them to narrow it down to really the top 5 to maybe 7 that they really like. And then those are the only ones that we allow through the gate. That way they're not wasting their time with all the rest. Once they have those picked, we set up individual video calls with the owner and the different buyers. And those are really important because it's a chance for them to interview the potential buyers. So anyway, once they've interviewed everybody, then we ask them all the buyers to submit their letter of intent. We help the seller to leverage those offers against one another and negotiate until ultimately they pick the one that they want. Once they sign the letter of intent, then due diligence begins. We're with them all the way through till closing. So start to finish, we're a white glove service. And the website again is vistabusinessgroup.com.
For MSPs around the world, the MSP Marketing Podcast with Paul Green.